Have you ever had one of those moments where you feel like you're standing at a crossroads? A time when you know deep in your bones that you need to make a bold move to step into a bigger version of yourself. But the world around you feels heavy, complicated, and loud. A feeling like your own inner fire, your own sense of purpose is flickering against a strong, relentless wind. If you're feeling any part of that right now, I want you to take a deep breath. You are not alone. In fact, you are perfectly in step with the story the sky is telling us. Hello, Mooncrafters. Welcome. This is Craft of Moon. Today we are exploring the new moon in the zodiac sign of Leo, which arrives on July 24th, 2025, at least in the Pacific time zone. This is a powerful, demanding moment of renewal that asks a very pointed question, a question that echoes through our personal lives and across the world stage. What does it mean to lead with your heart in a world that so often demands we follow the rules of power? What does it take to keep your own light burning brightly when faced with immense forces? In these lunation guidance videos for the full and new moons, I tend to focus less on aspects between planets and more on the movements of the moon over the last 2 weeks and the next 2 weeks. This is because so often the journey of the moon is an archetype of the life journeys we are all going through. For specific planetary aspects, I focus on those in separate videos, and as an example of one of those, you can see a recent video on Uranus entering Gemini on my channel page if you want to check it out. So here's the journey we're going to take together today. First, we will become detectives of the sky. We're going to follow the moon on her vital journey to this exact moment, tracing her steps through the zodiac to see what stories, what burdens, and what wisdom she has gathered along the way. Her journey informs our own, showing us the path we've walked, whether we knew it or not. Then we will stand right in the heart of this event. We'll look at the brilliant, fiery union of the sun and moon in Leo. We'll face its stark counterpart, a direct, unblinking face-off with Pluto, the planet of deep change and hidden power. This opposition creates a central friction and the central chance of this time. And finally, we will talk about the one thing this entire alignment asks of us. It is more than just a feeling or a wish. It is a practice. It is the practice of courage. And not just any courage, but the courage to align our deepest, most heartfelt intention with our real world impact, guided by a compassion that is active, clear-eyed, and strong. This is a big one. It's a turning point. So if this is your first time here, I want to extend a special welcome. I invite you to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our journey through the stars together. And for everyone returning, friends and new, I have a question for you to hold in your heart as we move through this. I'd love for you to share your thoughts in the comments below. The question is this: in your life right now today, what does the word courage truly mean to you? Not the dictionary definition, but the lived one you feel in your bones. All right, let's step in. To understand the power of any new beginning, we can't just look at where it lands. We have to understand the road that led to it. Imagine the moon not just as a rock in the sky, but as a traveler, a messenger, a gatherer of stories on her path to meet the sun in the heart of Leo. She has walked through some of the most intense and formative territories in the zodiac. At each stop, she has learned something, and she carries that wisdom with her. Her journey is our journey, a reflection of the collective story we are all living. Her story for this cycle really began as she traveled through the cool, intellectual, and electric sign of Aquarius. Aquarius is known as the sign of the collective, of society, of big ideas, future-forward thinking, and technology. It is also a sign of large systems and networks, and waiting for her there was Pluto. Pluto is the great revealer. Think of Pluto as the guide of the unseen world, the force of unavoidable change, deep power, and truth. When the moon passed over Pluto in Aquarius, she wasn't just having a casual meeting, she was being given a tour of the hidden structure of our world. She was shown the wiring behind the walls of our society, the unspoken power games, the unseen side of our progress, the deep collective fears that move through the world, often out of sight. We see this story written in global headlines every day. Complex political chess games between nations, widespread economic pressures that feel impersonal yet affect everyone, and the use of information and technology to influence and control. The moon absorbed this deep lesson about the weight and complexity of systemic power. She now carries that awareness, a sober undertaking of how the world truly works. From the airy conceptual world of Aquarius, her path took her into the raw, fiery, instinctual sign of Aries. Aries is the sign of the warrior, of pure initiative, of the spark that begins everything. It represents boldness and pioneering spirit, but the landscape here was challenging. Waiting for her in Aries are two cosmic giants, Saturn and Neptune. Think of Saturn as the old, wise, and stern teacher. He is the planet of boundaries, of structure, of discipline, and of hard-earned consequences. He represents reality in its most unvarnished form, often bringing delays and lessons about endurance. And right next to him is Neptune, the great dreamer, the weaver of faith, fog, and illusion. Neptune represents our highest spiritual ideals, our collective dreams, and our deepest sense of connection to the divine. Having Saturn and Neptune together in the pioneering sign of Aries speaks of the immense struggle to bring beautiful, compassionate, new vision into a world of hard limits and harsh realities. The contrast between Neptune and Saturn. It's the tension between our highest hopes for humanity and the stark, challenging facts on the ground. You can feel this everywhere. Think of the calls for peace amid ongoing conflicts, or the deep, urgent need for new solutions to old, entrenched problems, only to be met with frustrating delays, confusion, and the feeling of one step forward and two steps back. The moon gathered this feeling of a difficult but necessary struggle. She carries the memory of what it costs to try and build something new in an old world, the patience and grit required when ideals meet the hard ground of reality. The struggle is real, and at the same time, in many ways, it is the struggle that defines the shape of our dreams and channels our vision from gestation to birth. Next, her travels took her into the breezy, curious, and clever sign of Gemini. Gemini is the sign of the mind, of communication, connection, and information. It represents versatility and intellect, and here the story took a sudden, brilliant turn. She connected with two planets, Venus, the planet of love and beauty and what we value, and Uranus, the planet of revolution, rebellion, and sudden, shocking change, that Promethean planet that brings fire to humanity. This encounter was like a lightning strike, a flash of insight, a brilliant new idea that came out of nowhere, a surprising connection or a conversation that suddenly opened up entirely new ways of thinking about how we relate to one another and what we hold dear. This is the energy of the breakthrough. It's the sudden scientific discovery that changes our entire understanding of life, like the recent news of creating life free from hereditary disease. 8 babies have been born in the UK using genetic material from 3 people to prevent devastating and often fatal conditions, doctors have said. This method, pioneered by UK scientists, combines the egg and sperm from a mom and dad with a second egg from another donor woman. Yeah, it's wild, and it's starting to happen now. It's the unexpected diplomatic opening in a long-standing conflict where suddenly a way forward appears that no one had considered. It's that aha moment in your own life where 2 previously separate ideas click together and suddenly everything looks different, offering a fresh path forward. The moon carries this spark of radical, electrifying possibility, a reminder that even in the toughest times, solutions can appear in an instant. And finally, just before this new beginning, the moon made one last crucial stop. She passed through her home sign, the watery, protective, and nurturing sign of Cancer. For the moon, this is like coming home after a long, hard journey, and waiting to greet her there was Jupiter, the great giver of good, the planet of growth, justice, wisdom, and abundance. This was a moment of deep nourishment, a return to the source. After facing the shadows of power, the struggle of creation, and the shock of revolution, this was her time to rest and be refilled. This connection reminded her and us of what we are ultimately fighting to protect. It reminded her of what truly sustains us, our family, our home, our roots, our heritage, our emotional safety. It was a reminder of what really matters at the end of the day, the foundations upon which all our public endeavors must rest. So the moon arrives at this new moon in Leo not as a blank slate. She is full. She is rich with experience. She carries the sobering weight of Pluto's power. She carries the noble exhaustion from Saturn and Neptune's birth. She carries the brilliant electric spark of Uranus' revolution, and she carries the deep, soul-filling comfort of Jupiter's blessing. She brings all of this, the hardship, the hope, the insight, and the love, and lays it at the throne of the sun. She gathers all these threads of our shared human story and brings them to the moment of a fresh start ready to light the way forward. And that brings us to right now, this moment, the new moon in Leo. Let's first be very clear about what a new moon is. It is a moment of union. It is the moment when the moon, our guide to the inner feelings, emotional world, catches up to the sun, our guide to our spirit and vitality and our life force. They join together in the sky, and from our perspective on Earth, the moon goes dark as the side of the moon we never get to see basks fully in the light of the sun. It's a blank page, a fallow field. It is a seed being planted in the fertile darkness, holding all the potential of the cycle to come. It's a quiet pause before a new beginning, and this powerful seed is being planted in Leo. Leo is the zodiac sign ruled by the sun itself. It is the sign of the heart, of boundless creativity, of noble leadership, and of radiant self-expression. Leo is the part of us that wants to shine, to love generously and unconditionally, to create from a place of joy, and to lead not through force, but through warmth, strength, and integrity. You can think of this new moon as a kind of coronation. The moon, often seen as the queen of the night, gives her blessing and all the wisdom she's gathered to the sun, the king of the day. This is a powerful call for our own inner authority to rise. It's an invitation to step onto the throne of our own life, to claim our right to lead ourselves. But this coronation is not happening in a quiet, peaceful throne room. It is happening on a very public stage, with a powerful challenger looking on. This radiant, heartfelt union of the sun and moon in Leo is in perfect opposition to Pluto, who is still back in Aquarius. Let's break that down. An opposition is an astrological aspect where two planets are 180 degrees apart in the sky. It's a face-off, a tug-of-war. It creates a tension that is impossible to ignore, a polarity that demands our full awareness. It forces two completely different opposing principles to look at each other dead in the eye, creating a push and a pull we cannot avoid. So on one side of this stage, we have the new moon in Leo. This represents personal courage, individual heartfelt expression, the warmth of the creative spirit, the desire to lead from your unique center. The declaration, I am. It's about your distinct light, your unique purpose. And on the other side of the stage, we have Pluto in Aquarius. This represents collective power, impersonal systematic forces, the rigid rules of society, technology, and ways of thought, the hidden truths and shadows of the group. The declaration, we are. It's about the broader currents that move society. This is it. This is the central tension of our time, and it is the absolute heart of this new moon. It is the courage of the individual heart standing directly before the immense, often faceless, overwhelming power of the collective. It's the unique spirit confronting the vast, sometimes cold machinery of the world. Just as the ancient Greeks spoke of Hades, the ruler of the underworld, this opposition brings forth that which is hidden, powerful, and demands confrontation. We can also think of Pluto here as the archetypal energy of the goddess, Kali, who brings about transformation through destruction, clearing the path for new growth. This dynamic poses some very real questions for us. How do you keep your heart open and your personal spirit bright when you feel crushed by the weight of systems you cannot control? How do you lead with integrity when the pressures of the group or of society at large demand that you conform, that you fall in line? How do you find your voice when the collective roar is so loud? We see this exact drama playing out on the world stage every single day. We see it in the leaders trying to assert their nation's will against the powerful tides of global economics and alliances, where national identity clashes with global systems. We can see it in individuals and groups fighting for justice, for human rights, for a voice against huge entrenched political or corporate systems that seem too big to move. Think of the intense discussions around tariffs, wars, or the actions of powerful nations, which ripple out to affect the daily lives and livelihoods of people across the globe. We also see this in the constant friction in our own lives between our desire for personal freedom and our sense of collective responsibility, between what we want for ourselves and what is asked for us by our communities. This opposition highlights the vital need to honor both sides of this equation, and there is one more critical layer to this story. Standing right there with the sun and the moon in Leo is Mercury, the planet of the mind, of thought, and of communication. And at the time of this new moon, Mercury is retrograde, and it is moving under the beams of the sun. In traditional astrology, this is a condition called combustion. Imagine trying to write a letter right next to a bonfire. The heat is so intense that the paper is in danger of catching fire. Your thoughts are not cool and clear. They're being heated, purified, and burned down to their most essential truth. This is what is happening to our minds and our words right now. It's a cosmic cleanse for our thoughts. This means that this is absolutely not the time for grand pronouncement, loud declarations, or winning arguments. The real work of this new moon is internal. Our communication is being turned inward. The universe is asking us to pause and reflect on our own narrative, our own story, our own truth before we speak it. The fiery light of the sun is burning away all the fluff, all the posturing, all the things we say because we think we should. It's asking, what do you really stand for? When all the noise is stripped away, what is your core message, your true belief? This opposition to Pluto demands an honest answer to that question, because you cannot truly lead from the heart if you are unwilling to look at the darkness, the power dynamics, the consequences, and the uncomfortable truths. That's Leo versus Pluto. True, lasting courage is not naive. True courage is not blind optimism. True courage sees it all good, all the bad, all the beautiful, and the terrifying, and it still chooses to act with an open and compassionate heart. Yet it acknowledges the shadows. It chooses to bring light. This brings us to the most practical, the most personal, the most important part of this entire forecast. What we actually do with this potent, challenging energy. How do we take this big story and make it useful in our own lives? This is where we need to talk about two words: intention and compassion. I want you to imagine holding a seed in the palm of your hand. Let's say it's an apple seed. When you look at it, you see its tough, dark outer shell. It's a protective layer. If you were to crack it open, you would find the fleshy part inside, the bulk of the seed. But hidden deep within all of that, there is a tiny, almost invisible point of life. In botany, it's called the germ. Not germs as in cooties, but it's the germ of life. And that tiny point is the only part that holds the power of life. It is the only part that contains the blueprint for the entire apple tree. The husk can't grow. The fleshy part can't grow. Only that little tiny germ holds the future. This new moon is that germ. It is a time for us to consciously let the husk, the outer layers of what you think you should want, the expectations of your family and society, the noise of social media, the old stories you tell yourself, let those all fall away. It is time to let the fleshy part, the vague, generalized wishes dissolve. It's time to find that one tiny, potent point of pure intention, the true spark of what you want to create. So the first task is to ask yourself, what is the single most vital thing I wish to grow in my life over the next, say, 6 months? Not a list of 10 things, one thing. What is the core seed? What is that quiet, dark potential ready to burst forth? Planting that seed of intention is the primary work of this new moon. You find it, you clarify it, and you plant it in the dark, fertile soil of this moment. You whisper your deepest wish into the quiet night. But here is the crucial, non-negotiable lesson from this intense Leo-Pluto opposition. Intention is not enough. We can have the most beautiful, heartfelt, noble intentions. We can want to be compassionate. We can want to be of service. We can want to create peace in our families or our communities. But if the impact we actually have on the world, on the people around us, doesn't match that intention, then the intention loses its power. It becomes a hollow wish, a self-soothing fantasy. It's like planting a seed but forgetting to water it, or planting it in rocky soil. The intention may be pure, but without alignment, it won't bear fruit. We see this tragic dynamic play out in the world all the time, reflected in the news we read. A foreign policy intended to bring stability might lead to displacement and suffering for ordinary people, as we hear about immigrants being deported to unknown places or families being divided by policies. A leader's promise of prosperity for all might result in a deeper economic crisis for the most vulnerable, leading to widespread hardship. An attempt to secure a border can have heartbreaking human consequences, as seen in the struggles of individuals caught in vast systems. Think of reports of stampedes at aid sites or the complex human cost of border enforcement, where the goal of security can inadvertently lead to suffering. These outcomes are not always born from evil or malicious intent. They are often born from a dangerous disconnect between the idea and the reality. They are born from a failure to see the whole picture, a failure to listen, a failure of compassion. This is where compassion comes in, and I don't mean a soft, passive, gentle sense of pity. Under this sky, we are being called into a fierce, active, lion-faced compassion, the kind of compassion that requires immense courage. It is the courage to truly see the other person, to step into their shoes, even when it's uncomfortable. It is the strength to not just talk, but to listen, especially when the feedback is hard to hear, when it challenges your view of yourself. It is the integrity to ask honestly and humbly, I know what I meant to do, but how did my actions, my words, my energy actually land for you? What was the real effect? This is our self-reflection, a willingness to adjust. So the invitation of this new moon is twofold, like two sides of the same coin. First, clarify your core intention, meditate on it, journal about it, talk about it with a trusted friend. Get to the essential germ, that single point of life that you want to create. Make it real, tangible, and true to your heart. Second, make a sacred promise to yourself to actively bridge the gap between your intention and your impact. This new moon is where you plant the seed of your intention. The next new moon in Aquarius, which will happen in just about 2 weeks after this new moon, will be the first major moment of illumination. It will be your first big chance to see the real world impact that your intention on your community, your partnerships, and your relationships, reflecting the collective themes brought by Aquarius. So we can see this cycle of the moon. The new moon is setting the intention, and the full moon is measuring the impact, and then cycling back again through that. Intention, measuring impact. How do you do this practical work? Through conscious, regular check-ins, by bravely asking for feedback from those you trust, by paying ruthless attention, not just to what you meant to do, but what actually happened. And as a result of your actions, it's a constant dance between your inner compass and the outer world. And I just also like to say right now that if you're enjoying this video, please take a moment to like and subscribe, share it with a friend or a colleague. It helps this channel grow, and it helps this message reach those who need to hear it. The sky, like life, never stands still. The moment this new seed is planted, the moon immediately begins a new journey, and in doing so, she shows us the path forward. She lays out a map for how to make our heartfelt intention real. Shortly after the sun and moon unite in Leo, the moon will move on, crossing the border into the next zodiac sign, Virgo. Virgo is the sign of practical details, of dedicated service, of meticulous craftsmanship, and of simply doing the work that needs to be done. And awaiting for her there is Mars, the planet of action, of drive, of assertion, and of getting things done. This transit, this meeting of the moon and Mars in Virgo, is the how. It is the answer to the question. I have this big, beautiful intention. Now what? Your grand, courageous, heartfelt Leo intention needs a humble, practical, well thought out Virgo plan. Mars in Virgo is not a blunt instrument. It is like a surgeon's scalpel, incredibly precise, highly effective, and sharply focused. This is the energy that allows you to take your big, beautiful, heartfelt goal and break it down into small, manageable, practical steps. What is the very next email you need to send? What is the one phone call you need to make? What is the first item on the to-do list? Don't just dream it, schedule it, organize it, and do it. Mars demands action, and Virgo demands that the action be skillful, efficient, and well thought out. This is how you build a cathedral, one perfectly laid brick at a time. It's about making your big vision real through small, consistent efforts. After her work in Virgo is done, the moon moves into the next sign, Libra. Libra is the sign of balance, of justice, of partnership, and most importantly, of the other. Here, your plan, your action meets the world. You've made your first precise move, Mars in Virgo, and now you get to see how it affects your relationships and your environment. Does it create harmony? Does it create friction that requires negotiation? Does it call for an adjustment, a rebalance? Libra asks us to consciously consider the impact of our actions on others and to actively work to find a fair, just, and beautiful balance. It's about building bridges, not walls. A courageous intention is born from the heart. It is translated into precise, practical, and skillful action. And then it is tested, adjusted, and balanced in relationship with the world and with others. This is the formula. This is how a dream stops being a dream and starts becoming your reality. This is how to move from a wish to a lived experience. Now, it is worth saying that the next 2 weeks are going to be challenging because Mars is a tough planet. Even when it's sharp and precise, there is often a lot of difficulty that comes from Mars. And Pluto is a difficult planet as well. And between Mars and Pluto is the Via Combusta. The Via Combusta is the point between 15 degrees Libra and 15 degrees Scorpio. The reason why it is a difficult place, the Via Combusta means the burnt road. It's a place that the moon has difficulty traveling because right in the middle of it is the exact degree of the moon's fall, the lowest place in the zodiac where she struggles to manifest her fortunate ways. And she's traveling from this lunation to the next lunation. She's traveling past Mars through the Via Combusta onto Pluto, finally before meeting the sun again. The opposition. And so we have to think that this next 2 weeks are going to be challenging. And that's why it's really important now to make sure that our intentions are set with conviction. So let's bring all these threads together and land this back in our lives. We look at the world, we open our phones, we turn on the television, and it is incredibly easy to feel overwhelmed, to feel helpless, to feel cynical. The news cycle, by its very nature, tends to focus on what is broken. It fills headlines with stories of conflict and power struggles. We read about wars and the geopolitical maneuvering that fuels them, about nations facing difficult choices as deadlines for peace talks pass. We hear stories of people being displaced from their homes, of individuals facing uncertain futures, of economic systems that seem to create crisis, and of justice feeling impossibly far away. Like the ongoing trials of leaders, we hear of groups in conflict, of accusations, of grave actions, and the harsh realities of those caught in the middle. It can feel like a relentless, crushing tide of hardship, like the collective shadow of Pluto is everywhere. But that is not the whole story. It is a critically important part of the story, but it is not the entire truth of our daily lived human experience, not by far. The world is also simultaneously and mostly filled with an immeasurable and often unreported amount of goodness. It is filled with countless small, unseen acts of service, compassion, support, and generosity. The vast majority of people on this planet just want to live their lives in peace. We want to be of service to the people we love, and we want to feel cared for in return. We want to connect. We want to create. We want to love. We want to live from our hearts. These are the quiet, steady beats of the human experience, regardless of the news cycle, regardless of what you see in your social media streams. This new moon in Leo is a powerful, fiery reminder that this desire is not a weakness. It is not a naive or foolish wish. It is, in fact, our deepest, most enduring strength. The eternal forces that seek to knock us off center, that pressure us to conform, to shut down, that dislodge us from our orbits, to become cynical, those forces are very real. The pressure is real, but our capacity to connect with and to act from our own heart is also real. And it is infinitely more powerful. It is the unwavering light of the sun within you. This is your personal invitation to check with your own center, to do the quiet work of finding that small, indestructible seed of your truest intention, and make a promise to yourself, not to anyone else, but to you, to nurture it with a compassion that is strong enough to look at the hard truths of your impact, and a courage that is brave enough to act anyway. Think of our lives. We are the center of our own solar systems. These planets, the sun, the moon, the Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Aries, Makemake, all of them, Ceres, Chiron. These are all in our orbit, and we are at the center of our own universe. These planets are there to keep us centered, and if any one of them get knocked out of orbit by the behaviors of those we meet in our life, we have to pull ourselves back into center to see the reality and to still choose love. You are the ruler of your own life. You are the sole authority on your own heart. This new moon is your movement to consciously, quietly, and courageously claim that throne, not with arrogance of ego, but with the deep, warm, unwavering integrity of a compassionate leader, leading yourself. Thank you so much for sharing this time and this space with me today. If this message resonated with you, if it sparked something in your heart, please consider doing a small act of service and sharing this video with someone you know who might need a reminder of their own courage and of their own light. If you'd like to connect with me further, deeper in a one-on-one session, we can take a look at your natal chart and see how these transits, these lunations are impacting you personally. Just head to my website. The link is in the description below, and book a reading with me. It's as simple as that. And it's a simple act that can make a big difference in someone's day when you connect with them and remind them of their own courage and their own light. So until next time, keep your eye on the sky and make a wish upon a star.